Have you noticed that your legs don't feel quite as strong as they used to? Maybe getting up from your favorite chair takes a little more effort. Maybe the stairs leave you more tired than they once did. Or maybe carrying a few grocery bags doesn't feel quite as easy anymore. These changes can happen so gradually that you may simply think, well, I guess that's what happens when you get older. But there's something I want you to look at before you accept that explanation. What are you eating in the morning? Because for many older adults, breakfast can be one of the easiest meals to overlook when it comes to protein. You might have coffee and toast, maybe cereal, maybe a piece of fruit. They can all be perfectly normal breakfast foods, but they may not give your muscles much protein to work with. And that's where today's food comes in. It's inexpensive. It's familiar. You probably already have it in your kitchen. Eggs. But don't dismiss this as another video telling you that one food is going to magically fix your legs. That's not what I'm saying. There's a more interesting reason I'm bringing up eggs, and once you understand it, you may start looking at your breakfast a little differently. Because the question isn't simply whether eggs are healthy. The question is, could changing what you eat in the morning help you do a better job of supporting your muscles as you get older? Let's look at what actually happens when you give your body protein early in the day, and why the answer involves more than just the food on your plate. Think about what you ate this morning. Maybe it was a bowl of cereal, maybe toast with butter or jam, maybe coffee and a piece of fruit. There's nothing inherently wrong with those foods, but here's something you may not have considered. How much protein was actually in that meal? That's an important question because your muscles are constantly being maintained and repaired. And protein provides the amino acids your body uses for that job. The problem is that breakfast can be surprisingly low in protein, especially when most of the meal is built around bread, cereal, pastries, or fruit. You may feel full. You may have enough energy to get through the morning. But being full isn't necessarily the same thing as giving your muscles a useful amount of protein, and this becomes more important as you get older. Maintaining muscle can become more challenging with age, which is one reason a balanced diet with adequate protein, along with regular physical activity, matters so much. Now, I'm not telling you that you need to count every gram of protein at breakfast. And you certainly don't need to turn your morning meal into a complicated nutrition project. Instead, start with a much simpler question. Could you make your breakfast a little more protein-rich? That's where eggs become interesting, because when you crack open an egg, you're not just adding another food to your plate. You're adding a source of high-quality protein that contains all 9 essential amino acids your body needs to get from food. And one of those amino acids is about to become especially important to this story, leucine, because understanding why that particular amino acid matters will help you understand why eggs can be useful for someone trying to maintain muscle as they get older. So, what makes the protein in eggs worth talking about? It comes down to something your body does with the protein after you eat it. Eggs contain all 9 essential amino acids, including leucine, an amino acid involved in signaling the process of muscle protein synthesis. You don't need to memorize that term. Think of it this way. Protein provides the raw materials your body uses to maintain muscle, and eggs give you a convenient way to get those materials at breakfast. That's useful because your muscles aren't just something you build once and forget about. Your body is constantly breaking down and rebuilding tissue. As you get older, maintaining that balance becomes more important. But here's where I want you to pause. Because if you're thinking, so if I eat eggs every morning, my leg muscles will stay strong? Not quite. And this is where the story gets more interesting. Protein is only one part of the equation. Your muscles also respond to what you actually ask them to do. If you spend most of the day sitting, eating a protein-rich breakfast doesn't suddenly tell your legs to become stronger. Your muscles need a reason to keep adapting to the demands you place on them. And that brings us to the part of this story that has nothing to do with eggs. Movement, in particular, the kind of movement that challenges your muscles. Because the combination of giving your body useful building blocks and giving your muscles an appropriate reason to use them is much more important than any single food. And once you understand that, the purpose of the egg becomes much clearer. Here's the part many people overlook. You can eat a protein-rich breakfast every morning, but if your muscles aren't being challenged, you're missing an important piece of the puzzle. Your muscles adapt to the demands you place on them. That's why simple strength exercises can matter so much as you get older. It could be controlled chair stands, resistance band exercises, light weights, or another strength routine that's appropriate for your ability and health. You don't need to become a bodybuilder. You don't even need to spend an hour at the gym. The goal is simply to give your muscles a reason to keep doing their job. And this changes the way we should think about that breakfast plate. The eggs aren't the solution by themselves. They're one part of a bigger strategy. Give your body useful protein. Then keep your muscles active. That sounds simple, but there's an important distinction here. You aren't eating eggs instead of exercising. And you aren't exercising instead of eating well. You're putting the two pieces together. Your breakfast provides protein your body can use, while regular movement and appropriate strength training challenge the muscles you're trying to maintain. And you don't have to change everything overnight. Maybe you start with a few controlled chair stands. Maybe you use a resistance band a couple of times a week. Maybe you simply become more intentional about staying active throughout your day. The right starting point depends on your current fitness level. And if you have a medical condition or haven't exercised in a while, it's worth asking your healthcare professional what type of activity is appropriate for you. But now, we've uncovered something important. The food matters, but what you do with your body matters too. And there's still one question we haven't answered. If one breakfast can't transform your muscles overnight, then what can you realistically expect from making this change tomorrow morning? Let's clear up one thing before we go any further. If you're wondering whether eating eggs tomorrow morning can stop muscle loss in your legs within 24 hours, the honest answer is no. Your muscles don't suddenly become stronger because of one breakfast. Real changes in muscle strength and physical function take time, but that doesn't mean tomorrow morning is unimportant. One breakfast can be the beginning of a better pattern. If your usual breakfast contains very little protein, adding eggs gives you a simple opportunity to change that. Then, if you keep making protein a regular part of your meals and continue using your muscles through everyday activity and appropriate strength exercises, those individual choices begin to work together. That's the part I don't want you to miss. You're not looking for an overnight transformation. You're looking for something you can actually repeat. Because a healthy habit doesn't have to feel dramatic. It can be as simple as waking up tomorrow and thinking, what can I put on my plate this morning that gives my body something useful to work with? Maybe the answer is eggs. Maybe it's another protein-rich food you enjoy. The specific food matters less than finding an option that fits your diet, your preferences, and your routine. And once you stop looking for an overnight fix, another important question comes up. How can you make a breakfast like this satisfying enough that you won't get hungry again an hour later? Because that's where the rest of the plate comes in. Now let's make this practical. If you're going to have eggs in the morning, you don't need to eat them plain and call it a day. A better approach is to build a balanced breakfast around them. For example, you might have eggs with some vegetables and a slice of whole grain toast. Or you could have eggs with a piece of fruit and another nutritious food that fits your usual diet. The point isn't to create a perfect meal. It's to create a breakfast that gives you protein, provides some variety, and keeps you satisfied. And remember, eggs aren't your only option. If you don't eat eggs, you can still get protein from foods such as fish, poultry, dairy, beans, or lentils. So don't think of this as, I have to eat eggs every morning. Think of it as, I want my breakfast to include a reliable source of protein. That's a much more useful habit. And there's another small detail worth paying attention to: what you put around the eggs. A breakfast can start with a nutritious food and still become less balanced if it's loaded with highly processed meats, excessive salt, or large portions of foods that don't fit your individual dietary needs. Keep it simple. Eggs, vegetables, whole grains, fruit, whatever combination works for you. And if your doctor has given you specific dietary advice because of a health condition, follow that advice rather than changing your diet based on a general video. Because the goal here isn't to find the perfect breakfast. It's to find a breakfast you can enjoy, prepare easily, and repeat. And now we've got the food part figured out. But there's a bigger question. Why does maintaining your leg strength matter so much in the first place? Now step back from breakfast for a moment. Why are we talking so much about maintaining muscle in your legs? Because leg strength isn't just about having stronger muscles. It's about what those muscles allow you to do every day. Think about getting out of your favorite chair, walking through a grocery store, carrying a few bags, climbing the stairs, getting in and out of your car. These are ordinary things. You probably don't think about them when they're easy. But when they become difficult, they can start changing the way you live. You may walk less because you're worried about getting tired. You may avoid stairs. You may ask someone else to carry something that you used to handle yourself, and little by little, your world can become smaller. That's why maintaining muscle is about more than appearance. It's about keeping your body capable of handling the life you want to live. And this brings us back to that simple breakfast. The eggs aren't doing all of this by themselves. They're simply one practical way to put quality protein into your morning. Then you combine that with regular movement, appropriate strength exercise, and an overall nutritious diet. No single meal has to be perfect. No single exercise has to change your life. What matters is what you keep doing. And now we're getting to the most important part of this entire video. Because the real benefit you're working toward isn't actually bigger muscles. It's something much more valuable. Strong legs aren't really about having impressive muscles. They're about having choices. The choice to get up from your favorite chair without struggling. The choice to walk through the grocery store without wondering whether your legs will hold up. The choice to climb the stairs, get into your car, carry your own bags, or take a walk simply because you feel like it. Those abilities can seem ordinary when they're easy, but they're incredibly valuable when you want to remain independent. And that's why I don't want you to walk away from this video thinking, eggs are the answer. Eggs are simply one practical way to add quality protein to your morning. The bigger strategy is much simpler. Eat well, get enough protein, keep moving, and give your muscles regular opportunities to work. You don't need to change everything tomorrow. Maybe tomorrow morning, you add eggs to your breakfast. Maybe you take a short walk later in the day. Maybe you begin a safe strength routine that's appropriate for your fitness level. Small choices can become habits, and habits can become part of the way you take care of yourself. Because the goal isn't perfection. The goal is to keep your body capable of supporting the life you want to live. So the next time you sit down for breakfast, don't just ask, what will fill me up? Ask yourself, what can I give my body today that supports the strength I want to keep? And if eggs fit into your diet, they can be one simple place to start. If this video gave you a new way to think about breakfast and muscle health, subscribe to the channel for more simple, practical health information for adults over 60. And I'd love to hear from you. How do you usually eat your eggs for breakfast? Scrambled? Boiled? As an omelet or something completely different? Leave your answer in the comments. And remember, strong legs aren't just about muscles, they're about having choices.